Welcome everybody, welcome. Thanks so much for coming back to the Uncorked series here at the Kitsap History Museum. We are off to an awesome start for 2025 with a packed house tonight. For those that don't know, my name is Jeff Coughlin. I'm the volunteer director of the museum. I got a couple announcements, but first I always love to ask, whose time is it? Raise your hand if it's your first time at Kitsap Uncorked here. All right, that's good. That's what we like to see. So new people coming into the museum. So quick history, the museum itself's been around over 75 years, 30 years in this location. We get plenty of people going, I didn't know there was an awesome museum here. I like to say, yep, so come back, check it out. We are now open and still open through construction, Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 4, so open every day except Monday. There's some great brochures in front. If you want to consider becoming a member, it's a great way to support the museum at a low cost. And we are mostly volunteer based. We have 2 awesome staff members. Lisa Hope is on a much deserved vacation at the moment. And so I want to give a shout out to Kaylee Worley in the back. You probably saw her coming in, who really do the lion's share of everything around here. We could not operate without them and our amazing volunteers. If you're interested in volunteering, Kaylee has started the last Saturday of every month doing a volunteer orientation. And we're looking for folks who either like to do research, we're looking for a new archivist if you like data entry and keeping track of all the cool stuff that comes through that door into our collection. If you love cleaning bathrooms, we can never get enough volunteers for that. Just gotta put it out there. So anything you're interested in, we could definitely use. Got some exciting stuff coming up. Next month's History Uncorked will be with Akuye Karen Vargas on Black history. She is a fantastic speaker and just knows everything, so we're really excited for that. And the committee has been meeting to plan out the next Each Away series, so that should be announced next month of where we're going this year, and I think some really exciting locations people will like, so keep an eye out for that. We every month have something new in the community case. A shout out to Kaylee, she put together this month's exhibit on Kitsap History of Journalism and Publishing to tie into our talk tonight. And so if you know any other local community group, local artists, folks that want to display their history for the month, get them in touch with us, and we'd love to have them be able to display it in our community case. All right, that all said, it is my pleasure tonight to introduce Bill Mann. He is the editor and writer for the Kitsap Smokestack, an independent, free monthly print newspaper serving the Kitsap Peninsula. The publication focuses on promoting and recording local events and culture, operating under the motto, promote, inspire, respect, and record stuff that's happening in your town. That's at least according to ChatGPT. So if our AI overlords got it wrong, now's your chance, Bill, to correct it. So let's welcome Bill up here.
I have something better for you than a ridiculous speech by Bill Mann. We have brought Andy Binion out of hibernation to talk to you guys about the importance of journalism and a free press in your town.
Greetings. Can everybody hear me? All right. I am not as skilled a public speaker as Bill, so you're going to have to bear with me here. But I am heartened to see all of you here this evening. Thank you so much for coming. And thanks to the Kitsap Historical Museum for hosting History Uncorked. We at the Kitsap Smokestack are very grateful for their good work in preserving Kitsap County's unique and rich history. Please join me in a round of applause for the museum staff and volunteers. Yeah. But thanks especially goes to you, each of you, for being here tonight. Rather than all the other things you could be doing, Netflix, scrolling on the various streaming services, or endlessly scrolling on your phone, or laundry, or the chores that you need to get done you're neglecting, you came here. You are here, we are here, in community with your neighbors, among those who, like you, have a vested interest in this place, in Bremerton, Washington, Kitsap County. And what we are doing here, this together, is building community. You're going to hear that word a lot tonight, community. Thank you very much for coming. Like Bill mentioned, my name is Andrew Binion, and I've come here to talk to you about the Kitsap Smokestack. What is the Smokestack? It's a local, independent, and free publication based in Kitsap County for Kitsap County. It's just a page or two because it is meant to be magneted to your refrigerator pinned to your bulletin board. It's free. It comes out once a month, and you can pick it up at venues, coffee shops, bars, breweries, and retail stores. And what makes it special? Why do you want it on your fridge when you're drinking coffee in the morning or handy on your bulletin board? It's because the Kitsap Smokestack does the hard work, the impossible work, of assembling a one-stop printed calendar, a monthly repository for upcoming concerts, shows, readings, clubs, gatherings, and cultural events taking place on this rocky and riverless protrusion in the Puget Sound. Excuse me. Why is it called the Smokestack? It's called that for a few reasons. One is that typically smokestacks spread toxic smoke over large areas. In this case, this smokestack spreads good things, information you can use to connect with others. It's also a homage to Bremerton's industrial heritage of the shipyard. The goal of this smokestack is to give you a reason to get off the couch, leave your house, travel someplace that might be out of your comfort zone, might be a little loud, to mingle with strangers, and to make friends, and to learn about your world in the company of people who are open-minded and a little adventurous, just like you. In other words, to build community. When you do that, even if you aren't enjoying wine or beer, you will find that you like people, and they like you. And you will find that talking to people, listening to people, understanding different perspectives, joining in with others to listen to some live music will make you feel good. And that will change how you treat people and how people treat you. Right now, there is a loneliness epidemic in this country. We hear about it all the time. We are disconnected, disillusioned, and estranged. It affects how we see the world, ourselves, and each other. It's led us to fear each other and hate each other, to close our minds and close our hearts to each other. And this has left us vulnerable to manipulation, to politicians and their billionaire accomplices. Nowhere else has this stood in higher relief than the recent presidential election, where President Trump's campaign scapegoated trans people and immigrants, effectively, I might add, in stoking fear of the other. The results of the election showed him and other politicians that dividing us is a winning strategy. Now, it should come as no surprise to you that the creators of a local print publication with its roots in punk rock, dedicated to building community, would stand with the trans community, the gay community, the immigrant community, the Black and brown and indigenous communities. These are our communities. And stand against the hatred and fear exploited by President Trump and his fellow oligarchs. But all is not lost. The antidote to loneliness that has festered into hatred and fear is togetherness. It's community. And it's what we're doing right now and what the Smokestack fosters in Kitsap County. The Kitsap Smokestack is dear to my heart for a couple of reasons. One is that I was an early contributor way back in 2009. The other reason the Smokestack is so dear to me is because of the person behind it, Bill Mickelson, also known as Bill Man, a person I love and respect very much. Though Bill is the heart and soul of this wonderful publication and is a born performer, he asked me to be here in his stead. I can't fathom why, but I'd do anything for Bill. It's an honor. A little bit about me. My involvement in Kitsap County media started in early 2007 when I was hired as a general assignment reporter for the Kitsap Sun. For the next roughly 15 years, give or take, I served you, the people of Kitsap County, as a journalist in various capacities in various newspapers, as a reporter and an editor, mostly a reporter, covering stories from Hansville to Olalla and Seebeck to Bainbridge. Most recently, up until 2 years ago, I spent 9 years as the cops and courts reporter for the Sun. If you read a story in recent years about something bad happening here in Kitsap County, or just something weird, there's a good chance I wrote it. You need to be louder? Yeah. The Smokestack has gone through a few iterations in the 15 years it's been publishing, including a couple hiatuses. But to understand where it's been, where it is, and where it's going, to get to the heart of the Smokestack, fitting for a historical museum, we have to get into the recent history of Kitsap County media. And we have to get into the history of Bill Mann of Bremerton, Washington, our publisher, editor, chief reporter, circulation and advertising manager, financial officer, and all-around force of nature. To understand Bill, we have to start at the beginning, the Big Bang. I want you to travel back in time with me to January 10th, 1986, to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Born to a rancher turned banker father and a school teacher mother, the third of three boys, he was the surprise child, as he puts it. Bill grew up in Kemmerer, population 2,400, and home of the first JCPenney. Later on during his teen years, he went to high school in Green River, population 12,000. The world first became aware of Bill through sports. We see Bill suited up for football, basketball, baseball, track. He is faster, explosive even, and stronger and bigger than almost anybody he met on the field of competition. But what set him apart was his drive, his heart, his total commitment. He received all state honors for football and basketball, but it didn't really mean much to Bill. Sports didn't do it for him. The fact is, Bill didn't just triple letter, he quadruple lettered. He got his fourth letter in choir. That's because music is what Bill really loved. For Bill, it started early, at 10 or 11. Rooting around under the stairs in his parents' house, he came across a couple of old guitars. Destiny. Bill taught himself to play. At around the same time, he was struck with a lightning bolt out of the sky called punk rock. Deep inside the cowboy state, young Bill's life turned upside down. That fast, abrasive, rambunctious, exuberant music, in particular the punk pop band All, a descendant of the seminal punk band The Descendants, would change his life. Picture Bill and a friend playing their middle school dance. 13, 14 years old, his friend on drums, Bill on guitar. That was the beginning of writing songs and throwing shows and going on tour. What drew him to punk and its do-it-yourself ethos was a feeling of belonging. Growing up in a small town, Wyoming, even though he excelled at things like sports and earned top grades, Bill never felt like he fit in. He didn't feel like he belonged anywhere until he made friends with other kids interested in punk rock. He discovered the thing he says is the only thing he's good at, writing songs. He discovered how it could act like the glue that holds together this community, the necessary ingredient that Bill and his abilities could provide. And when I say Bill loved music first, what I mean is that Bill loved the power of music to bring people together. People coming together was Bill's joy. Turns out, Bill would later tell me, that he sometimes feels as awkward in the punk scene as he felt in small-town Wyoming. But the honesty of punk rock, its demand that we welcome each other as individuals, that we confront abuses of authority, drew in Bill. In small-town Wyoming, there was no scene to join, nobody to ask or give permission, no club to collect a cover. Bill learned that community does not create itself, but something is asked of all involved to do your part. These are Bill's words. about the punk rock scene growing up in Wyoming. Quote, "It's not a thing that you gravitate toward. It's a thing that you have to do in order for it to happen." His mom, proud of her son, sewed all of his varsity letters and patches and honors on a hoodie for him, a punk rock version of a Letterman's jacket. He still has it. Good grades and good sports stats did draw the interest of colleges. Something of a pattern, if not an expectation, in his family. With his older brothers both going away to college, to Yale and to the University of Washington, our young friend Bill, with an interest in journalism, caught the eye of Columbia University. The catch: he would have to play football in exchange for a scholarship, which Bill thought was a major turnoff, in his words. But the chance to go to New York City and study journalism was right in front of him. Also right in front of him was a baby, a newborn baby, a son, his son. Xander Peace is his name. Senior year, his girlfriend got pregnant. "Well, you better get a job," was the advice of his father. The couple would later have a daughter, Pixie Love. Bill loves them both very much. He tried a few different jobs, always avoiding the stable 30-year career at the mines or at the railroad, where you'd work your life away and hope you made it to retirement. That sounded miserable. One morning, getting up at 4 a.m. to drive a truck of Pepsi from one town to the next, he said to his reflection in the bathroom mirror, "If you have to work for the rest of your life, at least do something you enjoy." So our friend Bill walks into the offices of the Green River Star, the weekly newspaper serving the good people of Green River, Wyoming, and addresses himself to the woman behind the front desk. I'm going to recreate that encounter for you. "I think I'm going to be your next sports reporter," Bill says. "Excuse me, do you mean you want a newspaper route?" the woman says. "No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to be your sports writer." Flustered, not sure what to do, what's going on, she says, "I'm going to pass you off to someone else." It's a common experience for us journalists. Turns out, by coincidence, the Star's sports reporter had just submitted his 2 weeks' notice and was off to teach English in China. Our friend Bill was at the right place at the right time. Destiny. Back in 2005 or so, Kitsap County was served by the daily newspaper, the Kitsap Sun, and as a competitor, a constellation of 5 weeklies. Each weekly had a staff of 2 or 3 reporters and an editor. It was into this vibrant media environment that Bill arrived here. 19 years old, an infant son, a bride, in a place where he didn't know a single person within a 15-hour drive. He spent a little time in his hometown weekly, long enough. He understood the job, and now he wanted to spread his wings. Bill always wanted to live in the Northwest, and had been applying to any job listed, even one as a vacuum salesman. He showed up for the interview of the North Kitsap Herald in Poulsbo, wearing a 3-piece suit and carrying an extra pen. I've never seen Bill wear a suit. It was quite the image. Here is where the spirit of the Smokestack started. Thanks to Herald editor Joe Irwin, who took a chance on Bill. God bless Joe Irwin, who also gave our friend Josh Farley, editorial writer for the Seattle Times, his start in newspapers. At the time, the chain of Kitsap weekly papers produced an insert, essentially a second, smaller newspaper called What's Up, which had a Kitsap County-wide focus on arts and entertainment. Bill would be given What's Up to run, and each week he would essentially produce, all on his own, stories, photos, and he would lay it out. a multi-page newspaper covering the books and concerts and plays of Kitsap County. What's Up was meant to compete with the Kitsap Sun's feature desk, which had considerably more resources and staff, and featured the late Michael Moore, the longtime Puget Sound sports and culture reporter and all-around excellent writer. Not the documentary filmmaker, Michael Moore. As a side note, Michael died last year, just over a year ago, of cancer at 68 years old. Michael made an enormous contribution to local arts here, helping people get out of the house and meet each other, just like we're doing right now. Michael was a really special person. Bill's task at What's Up was daunting. With the same commitment he showed on the sports field, the same dedication he showed towards music, Bill launched himself at What's Up, and he did it his way. More closely resembling an alternative weekly, if not a zine, What's Up was Bill's creation. What Bill created was engaging and surprising and creative. But this was a newspaper, so obviously someone had to put a stop to it. Bill's time at What's Up came to an end, but it was too late. Bill got a taste. Here was a way to bring people together, and not long after he parted ways with the local weeklies, Bill breathed life into the Smokestack. The first issue came out in 2009, that's it right there, and featured local punk rock stalwart Mike Moen, right there, and his outsider candidacy for Bremerton mayor. It also featured a 4-page comic by Pat Moriarty about global warming and a transcript of a live Twitter feed of a mayoral debate in the back room of a local dive, hosted by our friend Chris Cornelis, another Sun veteran, and who writes for the Wall Street Journal now. And of course, a multiple-page calendar section. In that issue, there was also a profile of Bremerton artist Dave Ryan, who became a well-known painter in the greater Puget Sound area. I have one of his paintings in my kitchen, actually. Dave first came to prominence where he started tacking portraits of the fawns from Happy Days to light poles around Manette, with the fawns giving a thumbs up to Bremerton. Sadly, Dave died last week at the age of 42 of cancer. Far too young. Dave and his art will be missed. What followed after the first round of Smokestack wasn't exactly consistent. Bill loves music. He's been in multiple bands, played thousands of shows, written hundreds of songs, and with nobody else to take up the reins, the Smokestack went dark for long periods, while Bill went on tour through most of the 20-teens. Then, in a stroke of great fortune for us, Bill picked up the reins again in 2019, and what he saw was a crisis in community journalism. The first issue of the new volume came out in February 2022. So right there. This time the vision for Smokestack was different. Rather than try to be a zine or typical publication, they would focus on the thing that he loved most. And that's bringing people together and making it accessible. That thing is the calendar. It is the heart of the Smokestack, and it is very laborious and time-consuming. Though Bill is proud of the stories and photos and cartoons, it's the calendar, the guide to your community events, that is the heart of the Smokestack. Bill sees the future of the Smokestack in increasing its reach, increasing the pay for contributors. He dreams of hiring people and paying them salaries. He's very proud that the Smokestack pays people who contribute articles, photos, and art. It's not much, but it's something. And you can tell when he talks about it that Bill sees this as a major accomplishment, and it is. The current landscape for the independent press, the local press, the free press is bleak. There's no other way to describe it. As journalists, the public depends on us to tell them how it is. And right now, our local press is in trouble. The dailies and weeklies in Seattle have suffered round after round of layoffs and downsizing and closures. The Kitsap weeklies has suffered greatly as well, with cuts and consolidation and the closing of the Bremerton Patriot. And the Kitsap Sun, my favorite newspaper, has been deeply wounded by the mismanagement of its corporate owners trying to navigate this changing landscape. What has emerged to take the place of these print periodicals is inadequate to maintain a democracy. There are digital publications, but their scope and reach is negligible. And while people will always want news, they want to know what's going on in the world, governments, politicians, and corporations have learned that they can use social media to bypass journalists. And to my great chagrin, I'm not sure the average person understands the difference between getting their news from a government agency versus getting it from a journalist. I fear that the average person, in fact, might think it preferable to hear directly from their elected officials without the critical filter that a professional reporter can provide. When I arrived at the Kitsap Sun in 2007, I walked into a bustling, loud, crowded building. Every evening, the great beast of a press would be summoned to life in the basement, creating a buzz that vibrated through the concrete walls and floors. It was like a hum. When I would leave for the day, hopefully not having been too late on deadline and infuriating my editor, Kim Rubenstein, that sound, that feeling, that hum would put a smile on my face. It felt like the building itself was alive. On my first day on the job, I received a tour of the concrete, brutalist fortress that we called the Sungeon, named the Sungeon for its mustiness and lack of daylight, like a dungeon. And there were so many people all speed walking around, busy with work, that the tour had to repeatedly stop to let people pass. It was exhilarating to be there. When I left the Sun 2 years ago, it had one editor, 2 news reporters, a sports reporter, and a photographer, and no support staff to speak of. The Sun news staff had essentially been reduced to the staff of one of the Kitsap weeklies during their heyday. The press had years before been silenced, and then scavenged for parts, and then sold for scrap. I do not mean to denigrate the people keeping the lights on at these papers, especially the Sun. They are not to blame for this decline. And in fact, their talent and perseverance is what's keeping the free press afloat. They are my brothers and sisters. I love them and I'm proud of them. But we must face facts. What happened to the Sun has happened to local newspapers across our country. But the Sun is my paper, and it breaks my heart. The day I gave my 2 weeks' notice to David Nelson, my editor, I wept. I broke down and cried like a baby. And to you, the people of Kitsap County, our readers, I can't say that you even understand what you've lost. I don't think you do. But believe me when I tell you, it's not coming back. You've lost it forever. And you are worse off. And I urge you, do not let your free press slip any further away. Your paper was late. You don't like this story. It's too liberal or conservative. You spotted a typo. There's not enough local stories. I get it. Believe me, there are few people alive who get it, like I do. But what you lose, it doesn't come back. And I can tell you, there are people out there that they love it, that there are far fewer reporters at the Sun and the Kitsap weeklies to hold them accountable. There is another possible meaning for calling this publication the Smokestack. In about 20 years as a reporter, I've covered my share of house fires. And in covering house fires, an image has long stuck with me. When a house is a total loss and it burns to the ground, and all that is left is the charred ruins, sometimes you will see one interesting feature sticking out. Often enough, the chimney remains, a tower of brick pointing straight to the sky. It's almost inspiring. The flames and the heat, it couldn't topple the chimney, the center of the house, the thing meant to keep us warm. The impulse to share ideas, to bring people together, to create community through the ancient technology of the printing press is buried deep inside of us. Even when we lose our means of organic and local communication with each other, something remains, something instinctual for us as Americans that can withstand the flames and the heat. And Bill and the Kitsap Smokestack, you have something here that is very precious and fragile and rare. And its reason for existing is to get you away from your TV, your phone, the social media controlled by oligarchs, and help you join with friends and strangers in a hobby or a recreation, in community. I urge you to care for it. Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. Good night.